You almost missed it. A small green shape, sitting perfectly still beneath a tomato plant. So still, in fact, that most people would have walked right past without ever noticing it. But something made you stop. Something made you look a second time. And what you found quietly watching from the shadows of your garden may be one of the most important signs a piece of land can offer. Because that green frog did not end up there by accident. It did not randomly wander into your yard. It did not simply take a wrong turn while searching for water. In ways that most people never realize, it chose your garden before it ever settled beneath that leaf. It had already evaluated something. Your soil, your moisture, your shade, your water, even the invisible chemistry of the environment around it. And somehow, after considering all of those things, it decided to stay. Think about that for a moment. A creature that has survived on Earth for millions of years. A creature whose ancestors were already hopping through wetlands long before humans built cities. A creature whose survival depends entirely on the quality of its environment. Looked at your garden and decided it was worth living in. That decision means more than most people realize, because green frogs are surprisingly selective. They cannot thrive just anywhere. They cannot tolerate every environment. And unlike many animals, they carry their environment directly on their skin. Every drop of water, every chemical, every pollutant, every trace of fertilizer. Their bodies experience it all, which means a green frog is constantly testing the world around it. Every hour, every day, every season. And if one chooses to remain in your yard, it may be telling you something remarkable about the place you call home. Something that no soil test can fully reveal. Something no garden center can sell. Something no bottle, spray, or fertilizer can manufacture. Because the truth is that green frogs are among nature's most honest inspectors. They do not care how expensive your landscaping was. They do not care how perfect your lawn looks from the street. They do not care how many flowers you planted. They care about something far more important. Whether your yard is truly alive, whether the soil still supports life, whether insects still thrive there, whether clean water still exists, whether the tiny ecosystem beneath your feet is functioning the way nature intended. And that is why scientists often pay attention when frogs disappear. Because frogs tend to notice environmental problems long before humans do. In many parts of the world, frog populations begin collapsing years before people realize something is wrong. The frogs leave first. The warning comes later. But tonight, we are talking about the opposite situation. Not what it means when frogs disappear, but what it means when one appears. Because if a green frog has chosen your garden, there is a good chance it knows something about your property that you don't. And before this story is over, I think you'll understand why that tiny animal sitting quietly beneath a leaf may be one of the best compliments your garden has ever received. But first, we need to understand what makes green frogs so different from almost every other visitor your yard will ever receive. Let's start with the biology, because the biology of a green frog is far more extraordinary than most people realize. Green frogs belong to a group of animals that has existed on Earth for hundreds of millions of years. Their ancestors were already living in wetlands long before the first birds appeared, long before mammals became dominant, long before human beings planted their first gardens. And despite all that time, one thing about them has remained remarkably unchanged. Their skin. If you were to look closely at a green frog resting beside a pond, it might seem fragile, soft, thin, almost delicate. But that skin is one of the most sophisticated environmental monitoring systems in the natural world. Unlike mammals, unlike birds, unlike reptiles, a green frog does not experience the environment through a thick protective barrier. It experiences the environment directly. Its skin absorbs moisture. Its skin exchanges gases. Its skin interacts constantly with the world around it. In many ways, a green frog is living inside the environment more completely than almost any other animal in your yard. And that is exactly why scientists pay attention to frogs. Because frogs notice problems before we do. Imagine two gardens. One appears beautiful, perfect lawn, perfect flowers, perfect landscaping. The other looks less impressive, more natural, more wild. Which one is healthier? Most people would choose the first. A frog often chooses the second. Because frogs are not impressed by appearances. They care about conditions. They care about water quality, humidity, soil life, insect abundance, microorganisms, the countless invisible factors that determine whether an ecosystem is truly healthy. And unlike humans, they cannot be fooled. A garden can look beautiful to us, while quietly becoming less alive every year. But a frog notices the moment conditions begin to decline, the moment chemicals accumulate, the moment insects disappear, the moment moisture patterns change, the frogs begin leaving. That is why ecologists often describe amphibians as the living alarm system of nature. They are usually among the first animals to disappear when ecosystems become stressed, which means the opposite is also true. When a green frog chooses to stay, it is passing judgment on your garden, a positive judgment, a biological approval, a certification far more honest than any soil test you could buy, because the frog has been evaluating conditions every day of its life, and so far, your garden has passed. But there is another reason green frogs choose certain gardens, and this reason benefits you directly, because while you sleep, the garden changes. The daylight world disappears. A different world emerges, a world most homeowners never see. The hours between sunset and sunrise are some of the busiest hours in any garden. This is when mosquitoes leave standing water, when moths begin searching for leaves, when beetles emerge from beneath the soil, when countless insects start feeding, breeding, and reproducing. Most of this activity happens completely unnoticed. Yet the green frog notices all of it. Its eyes are specially adapted for low light. Its hearing is extraordinarily sensitive. Its entire hunting strategy evolved for the darkness. And once the sun disappears, the frog begins working, patiently, silently, efficiently, waiting, watching, listening, then suddenly moving. A mosquito disappears, a beetle disappears, a moth disappears, and then another, and another, and another. Most homeowners never witness this process. They simply wake up the next morning unaware that a natural pest control specialist spent the entire night protecting their garden for free. No chemicals, no sprays, no traps, no machinery, just biology doing what biology has always done. And the numbers become astonishing when you think about them over time. One frog hunting every night, night after night, week after week, month after month. Thousands of insects removed from the ecosystem, not eliminated entirely, simply kept in balance, exactly the way nature intended. And that balance matters more than most people realize, because ecosystems are not built through control. They are built through relationships, predators, prey, plants, water, soil, every piece, influencing every other piece. A healthy garden is not a place where nothing gets eaten. A healthy garden is a place where everything remains balanced. And that is exactly the role a green frog quietly performs while most of us are asleep. But there is one final reason the green frog in your garden matters. And it may be the most important reason of all, because across much of the world, frogs are disappearing. Quietly, gradually, often without people even noticing. A pond that once echoed with calls every spring becomes silent. A wetland that supported thousands of amphibians suddenly supports only a few. And year after year, the pattern repeats itself. The causes are many: habitat loss, pollution, climate change, chemical runoff, disease. One problem alone might not be enough to cause a collapse, but together, they create a pressure that many amphibian populations struggle to survive. And the consequences reach far beyond frogs themselves. Because when frogs disappear, they take part of the ecosystem with them. The insects they controlled begin increasing. The food chains they supported begin weakening. The balance starts shifting, sometimes slowly, sometimes dramatically. And that is why ecologists pay such close attention to amphibians, not because frogs are merely interesting animals, but because they are messengers. They tell us things about the health of an ecosystem before most other animals can. They reveal changes that are otherwise invisible. And perhaps that is why the green frog in your garden deserves a little more appreciation than most people give it. Because while many people see only a frog, nature sees something very different. Nature sees proof that moisture still exists, proof that insects still thrive, proof that soil still supports life, proof that a small ecosystem is still functioning the way it was designed to function. Think about that the next time you see one. That tiny animal sitting quietly beneath a leaf, motionless, patient, almost invisible. It is not simply occupying your garden, it is evaluating it, living within it, participating in it, and in a very real way, approving it. The truth is that your backyard may be more important than you realize. Many people think conservation only happens in national parks, in giant forests, in distant wilderness areas. But increasingly, scientists are discovering that small private gardens matter too, sometimes far more than anyone expected. A single healthy backyard can provide food, shelter, water, breeding space, safety, everything a frog needs to survive. And when thousands of homeowners create those spaces together, entire populations can benefit. Your garden may seem small, but to a green frog, it can be an entire world, a refuge, a sanctuary, a place worth returning to. And that brings us back to where we started. The moment you noticed that small green shape beneath a leaf, the moment you stopped walking, the moment you looked closer, because perhaps what you found was not simply a frog. Perhaps what you found was evidence. Evidence that your garden is alive. Evidence that nature still trusts this place. Evidence that the choices you made created something valuable, something real, something worth protecting. Before we finish, I'd love to ask you something. Have you ever found a green frog living in your yard? Did it appear after a rainstorm? Do you see them every year? Or has it been a long time since you've seen one? Let me know in the comments. And tell me where you're watching from. I'd genuinely love to know how many people still share their gardens with these remarkable little animals, because every story helps paint a bigger picture, a picture of where nature is still holding on. And if a green frog has chosen your yard, maybe take a moment to appreciate it tonight, because in a world where so many wild places are disappearing, that tiny visitor may be one of the most meaningful compliments your garden will ever receive.